Hey kids! Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips.
Another beautiful morning right here at Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. This is the best show that kickstarts your day like no other. My name is Fred Indemuli, and I think it's time we start Christmas countdown. Today being the 25th of September, it's exactly 3 months to Christmas.
It officially starts in October for me.
Well, 25th, 3 months. 3 months, so it's about 90 days to Christmas, yes.
Jingle bells, jingle bells.
I tell you.
I'm Shiksha Aurora, and of course we're right here on TV47. This is the Morning Cafe show. If you would like to be in touch with us and tell us where you're watching from, the hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47 at TV47 Kenya. That is on Facebook, and on X at TV47 News, at Shiksha Aurora, and at Fred Indemuli.
Right, and even as we continue with our Christmas countdown, or even as we kickstart our Christmas countdown, a lot of conversations continue, including what's happening with the Deputy President, the Adani deals, the police service, university funding model, and for the State of the Nation today will be a privilege to have Danson Mungatana, Senator, Tana River County. He is the one who filed a censure motion against the Deputy President before the Senate with the Speaker, Amazon Kingi. It is yet to be discussed. He'll be here to tell us more. He has also filed another motion that's interesting on regulating churches, and it's a very controversial bill.
Absolutely.
It's already before the Senate. Churches have come out and said, usiguze mlima ya church. He'll be here. Pamela Odhiambo, former woman representative Migori County, will also be in studio alongside Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo for State of the Nation. Then, after that, Shiksha, tuambie.
Look at this. This is our panel today. We have almost, are they 10? Yes, they are 10. 10 youth in studio who will be talking about the online pressure in relationships. And of course, they'll be giving us their insights because they are definitely dating in this social media era and how it really affects them long term, how it affects their relationships, their mental health. And really, is it sustainable to have a relationship when there's so much online pressure that comes with just dating someone?
I know, and I've seen over the past few weeks, the number of people who've broken up, and it has to play out on
public
social
figures
media.
especially.
Because you have to come and announce that yes, we've officially broken up.
Because the people who are your fans and followers, they expect you to
whenever
put your life out there.
Whenever I break up, no one knows apart from me and the person I break up with.
That's what comes with being in the public eye, I guess.
It's a very interesting discussion coming your way later at 8. All right, quick look at the dailies this morning. The Star, smart people read the Star. It decided to go with a university fee burden laid bare in Parliament, a rather long headline. The paper today looks a bit different, I don't know why. But yes, this is a big headline on the Star. Grab yourself a copy. We'll be back to take a look at this in detail.
Right, of course, we also have the Business Daily, where MPs top the list of 64 billion shilling SACCO ban defaulters, and 29.7% MP SACCO loan books have been defaulted. Lawmakers will be enjoying easy access to such packages, so that's something that we'll be looking at. That's on the Business Daily.
At MPs our lipi loan.
Imagine.
Sasa sembuse. Kurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo anasema kibarua kutimua Gachagua. Yes, a big discussion about the looming impeachment of the Deputy President. Mchakato wa kutimua naibu rais ni sawa na ule wa kufurusha rais na ana hadi mahakama ya juu kusaka haki. It would be easy. So ni kibarua kutimua Gachagua.
And that is the Daily Nation. The picture right there is actually of Mr. Adil Arshad Khawaja, who is known to be Ruto's Mr. Fix-It, according to the Daily Nation, and links to Adani Group. So we'll be telling you what his position was at the Safaricom board and how he is linked to the multi-billion shillings airport leasing deal with Indian conglomerate Adani Group.
Right. That issue about the president and his deputy also features on the front page of the Daily Nation. We'll come back and take a look at it. On the Standard, matters police service, where we get it all wrong with police. And this was a special committee or task force chaired by the retired Chief Justice David Maraga. They finally presented their report and detailing exactly where it goes wrong. They say it started off wrong at the hiring stage.
Interesting. Of course, we also have the People Daily newspaper right there, where judges are busy bodies. And of course, this is fury over CDF ruling. And yes, there is anger by the declaration of the High Court that CDF was unconstitutional, and MPs unload vitriol on the judiciary, depicting it as an ivory tower out of touch with reality in a move that could put the legislature on collision course with the bench on page 7. So that is the big headline right there. Of course, 51,000 university students may also be missing exams. We also have mamabogas who are in for a rude shock. So quite an interesting spread right there on the People Daily.
And I'm struggling to find any positive stories on our front pages. But hey, let's cross over into Tanzania.
News is hard.
Yes, in Tanzania, we start off with the citizen dollar crisis, and they've been having this problem for quite a while. Tanzania backs local currency use in East Africa trade. So wamekubali sasa tunaweza trade na shilingi. The government is actively promoting the use of local currencies in trade within the East African community and with major trading partners in response to the limited supply of US dollars. Now, this could actually be in favor of Kenya because we have the strongest currency locally.
Yes, of course.
So if at all they choose to use a shilling, Kenya watumie shilingi yao, exchange rate yetu is way better than in Uganda. So yes, this could actually be positive for us. Other stories on the front page of the Citizen: Samia detailed strategy to double coffee exports in 5 years, and a woman who hired a brother to kill husband handed death sentence. And what? Anyway, these things do happen. And
you know, yesterday I actually saw a very interesting story, and it was from Korea, where a man was sentenced 25 years later after they found his ex-girlfriend in a wall. He had buried her and he had cemented the wall.
Wow.
And they found the body because the new tenants who came into the apartment, they actually felt that something was not right with that wall. So when they reported it, they found the body right there. And he had also paid someone to kill her. And then he buried the body. So these are stories that when you see on the newspaper, you just wonder.
And it's not just an African thing.
Imagine, it's really not.
It's
global.
Everywhere. Even in the US, quite a number of these killings happen there.
Yeah.
So, but in Kenya, you rarely find such things on the front pages. It's usually hidden on page 17.
Our neighboring country has decided, let's put it on page 3.
Oh, I've seen one thing here.
Yes.
Police harassment of journalists. Deplorable. This is an editorial. It happens also in Tanzania. And they had protests. They attempted to have protests yesterday. No, the day before. And police actually managed to quash it.
Ni uhalifu au kisasi?
Gazeti la Mwananchi habari kuu hapa wanasema afisa wa halmashauri, mtoto wake na msaidizi wa ndani wateketezwa kwa moto ndani ya gari msituni. Mume asimulia hatua kabla ya kifo cha mkewe, polisi Tanga wachunguza. So yes, this the mother and child were burned beyond recognition inside their vehicle. But they say it could actually be foul play. May not be an accident. Kwingineko, Samia awatwisha Bashe Aweso zigo la makato ya kahawa na maji, na kauli za wadau na mwelekeo wa Chadema polisi. This is about the demonstrations that happened on Monday this week. The Chadema, that's the opposition party, attempted to have demonstrations in Dar es Salaam, and the police were having none of that. So, right. That is as far as Tanzania news is concerned. Let's cross over to Uganda and we start off with the New Vision.
All right, it says Kitezi garbage sinks 3 KCCA bosses.
Oh, yes.
And of course, those are the pictures of the bosses.
Heads are finally rolling.
Yep.
After that, this was a big landfill that collapsed and it killed over 40 people in Kampala, Uganda.
Oof.
So
finally,
officials from the Kampala City Council
are being held accountable.
The Kampala City Council Authority are now being held accountable. 3 of them. NEMA had warned that landfill did not meet minimum operational requirements. They did nothing about it. People died. Now they have to go home. It is the same story on the Daily Monitor as well this morning, and I like the headline.
Rubbished.
Rubbished. So it was a pile of garbage that fell, a landslide that killed over 40 people. Now these 3 people are the ones paying for it. They've been rubbished. So dumped like garbage. The stinking rot of Kitezi landfill has finally elicited a response from State House, with President Museveni swinging the axe that has claimed the heads of Kampala capital city's authority top brass.
And I really like the photo there as well.
Yes.
3 sacked.
3 sacked. But
that's quite a
one word headline, rubbished. And
the satire here, I have to say.
Yes, and I told you how clean this paper is usually.
Yes, always.
Is on the front page. Very neat. Just
Organized.
one word headline. Hakuna maneno
Always
mengi.
organized so well.
You go to Tanzania and you look at the papers and they have like 47 stories for each county, all over, including pictures. So
Let's make it 50.
So these are the dailies, both local and regional. We'll be back to take a look at local dailies in depth in a while. For now, let's take a look at the weather situation. Ndo ujipange, tujue kama utavaa ama utabeba jacket na umbrella. We start off with Nairobi. This morning it is 14 degrees Celsius. It promises to be a sunny day, partly cloudy.
With highs of 24 degrees later on, coming in at around 3 p.m. Remember, we also have 4 p.m., 7 p.m. also promising to show that the sun will come into play at some point. The highs actually will be at 25. So yeah, it's looking like a pleasant day. In fact, yesterday in Dimuli, I thought it was super hot at around 2 p.m. Yeah, so I feel like we are getting our summer back. Our sunny days are coming back. Sunshine is back.
Talking of heat, let's take a look at Garissa, because as we speak right now, few minutes, almost 13 minutes past 6, it's 23 degrees Celsius. But it promises to get us, listen to this, as hot as 35 degrees Celsius later in the day. Now this one, hii hata huwezi vaa shati. Na ukitoa shati unabana. Sasa sijui utafanya nini.
You know, at 35 degrees, if you put an egg on the floor, you can actually boil it.
And that is just today, because tomorrow...
It gets worse.
Even today, I think it will go as high as...
In fact, next week, Monday, it's going to be at 37 degrees.
Hii unaambiwa usitoke nje. No walks, just take water, stay in the house.
And a humidity of 84% in Dimuli.
This is serious. This is Garissa weather. Wow. So if you're planning to travel that direction, be ready. Beba maji, because you will definitely need it. In Kericho?
Well, currently it feels like 13 degrees, and of course it gets warmer throughout the day. Light showers expected, 70% at around 4 p.m. and 50% at around 2 and 3. So yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a warm day with showers expected in the afternoon between 2 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon, yeah.
These are actually thunderstorms. So
thunderstorms at, yes. Wow, 70% chance of thunderstorms.
So if you're going to Kericho, huko kutanyesha, be ready.
Carry your umbrella.
Finally, let's take a look at what could be holiday weather. This is Malindi today. Incidentally, the Mount Kenya University, they're doing something about maritime.
Yes.
They're starting a unit on maritime education. So they'll be doing a lot of stuff, and we'll be covering that on TV47 as well.
The coastal area as well. So yes, looking like a sunny day, 29 degrees reported from 10 all the way until 3 p.m. Of course, it's looking like it's going to be a day filled with sunshine, holiday weather, as Ndimuli has said, throughout the day. Currently, it's 24, but yes, it keeps rising up until the afternoon when we see 28 degrees at 5 p.m. So yeah, 29, 28, that's the average. It's a sunny day.
Comfortable holiday
beautiful weather. We love it.
All right, that's as far as the weather is concerned. We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies. For now, let's take a look at Today in History.
Today in History, 25th September 2013, Westgate Mall attacks response. On September 25th, 2013, Kenyan security forces declared an end to the Westgate Mall siege in Nairobi, which had begun on September 21st. The attack was carried out by the Somali militant group Al-Shabaab, leaving at least 67 people dead. The attack marked one of the deadliest terrorist incidents in Kenya's history, prompting a significant response from the Kenyan government and increased international cooperation in counter-terrorism.
All right, let's now come back and take a look at the local dailies in depth. All right, smart people read The Star, and that's the paper we begin with for our news review today. University fee burden laid bare in Parliament, and they say government says only half of students have paid the requisite fees. Yes, we saw the president form 3 committees to actually review the new university funding model. Yes. Many students had already expressed concern and saying this new funding model will simply lock us out. Now it would appear it really is happening.
And it's over there, 50% of new students are unable to pay household fees. And 11,132 have actually appealed their banding.
Exactly. And you know, the president who's in the US attending the United Nations General Assembly, while there he talked about it and said how he had employed AI to fix that university funding model. And people are saying, hey, you know, AI may not have encountered such things before.
And
this is the very first time AI is encountering a new university funding model for Kenya that doesn't even take into account the nitty-gritties. Yes.
And the struggles of these students especially.
So thousands of university students are staring at the possibility of dropping out as a result of the heavy fees burden. Now, the government on Tuesday confirmed that only half of the students had paid the requisite university fees as the reality of the new funding model sinks. Now, this is something the government really needs to take seriously because wameambiwa mara mingi hii kitu haiwak haifanyi, wameinsist sasa half of the people won't even attend university. What exactly are you up to?
All right, of course, over there we see a picture of the Senegal president. And remember, we also have President William Ruto in New York. And of course, that is something that he is currently enjoying. He is with other dignitaries, other heads of states at the United Nations Assembly. And that's something that we will be looking at later on.
Yes. You know, why this picture is important, you realize that Raila Odinga is right there.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
And this is part of the campaigns for these AUC chairperson's bid. So Raila Ruto campaign at NYC.
That's Aiden Duale.
Yes, Aiden Duale is there.
In the middle right there.
So this picture means that President William Ruto has probably managed to convince his Senegalese counterpart Bassirou Diomaye Faye to support Raila Odinga's bid. So they took a picture. So every time they agree on something,
and
to
do you see the hand holding? That's a handshake right there.
In campaign. Any campaign.
Broad-based government indeed.
You see the way during campaigns or politicians go carrying babies and holding hands and folding their shirt sleeves and stuff like that. This is exactly what you see.
And look at the smiles on their faces. They're so happy.
And my friend.
At the top there, you know, Indimuli, I'd like to take your attention there, where a medical intern at Gatundu dead on balcony. And of course, this is something that we've been seeing where medical interns have really been under stress and pressure, especially with the current challenges that they undergo where they're not getting paid. There was a strike for the longest time. And this medical intern also was said to have committed suicide.
It's very unfortunate.
After her 3 to 6 hour shift.
So 36 hours and you're not being paid. They were only posted about a month or two ago, so they've not really been there for long. But because of the delays in Treasury releasing money to counties, counties are not even able to pay them. So you can imagine doing 36-hour shifts non-stop and you're not getting anything. Meanwhile, you've been studying for 6-7 years.
7 years,
It's actually very
And it's very overwhelming as well for other students, other nurses, you know, other doctors, other interns who see this news because they're also going through the same. So there has been an outroar on social media. In fact, yesterday, a lot of the people who I follow, my Instagram had a lot of people reposting this and just talking about how difficult it really is being an intern. Well, Ministry of Health needs to definitely do something at this rate because it's very alarming.
All right, that's a star. Let's take a look at the Business Daily, and it talks about MPs not paying their loans.
Now, MPs top the list of 64 billion shilling SACCO ban defaulters. 29.7% MP SACCO loan book defaulted. And, you know, lawmakers enjoy easy access to these packages that have actually crossed the 60 billion shilling mark as one of Kenya's wealthiest cooperative societies who are actually struggling under the weight of unpaid loans. So as you said, Indimuli, if MPs are struggling, who are we?
And they get to set their own salaries. Unlike you, who you have to wait for HR to tell you, this is how much we'll pay you.
Imagine.
Then they set their own salaries.
And they're still struggling.
They're still struggling.
Current state of the nation, which Indimuli will be discussing.
The other interesting story on the front page is about Starlink, and President William Ruto backs Starlink rivalry with Safaricom. This has been a big discussion point now with the entry of Starlink as another internet service provider in Kenya, satellite-based. What does that do to the local ISPs? Safaricom and the rest. The biggest rivalry, of course, will be between Starlink and the biggest ISP in Kenya, which is Safaricom. And it looks like President Ruto amesema kaende kaende.
Absolutely. All right. On the other side, we see Treasury rolls out blanket tax deal for Adani. We also have universities cut salary budgets on cash woes, and that's Moi University, Egerton University, and Technical University of Mombasa have cut their budgets on salaries and allowances in the year. We also have Centum cuts risk with switch to shilling loans. And then we have SMEP, that is Microfinance Bank, has grown to join the top tier of Kenya's microbanks against the backdrop of the sale of a majority stake in the lender last year. So in terms of business, well, seems that there is a lot going on the Business Daily. So please do check it out. And yeah, just go and read through all these very interesting stories.
All right. Kibarua kutimua Gachagua ndio habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Anasema mchakato wa kutimua naibu rais ni sawa na ule wa kufurusha rais na ana hadi mahakama ya juu kusaka haki. Mdahalo mkali kuhusu kuwasilishwa kwa hoja ya kumtimua mamlakani naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua ukishika kasi. Kibarua hicho si rahisi jinsi inavyoelezewa kwenye majukwaa ya kisiasa. Yes, people are really shouting and verbalizing threats and saying we're going to impeach you this time round, utakipata. And I'm wondering if he's really in your crosshairs already, just fire the shot if you can, because there's a lot of bark but very little bites.
Yes,
it's not going to be easy as shouting on top of a political platform.
Absolutely. Also, Indimuli, I'd like to draw attention there. That has been a story that has once again taken the world by storm. You know, globally, as Israel yaua zaidi ya 400, Lebanon more than 600 actually, as of this morning, have lost their lives in a day of airstrikes. Just one day, 600 people have died in Lebanon, courtesy of Israel's airstrikes. And I really hope that this doesn't end up being a situation where, you know, we lose thousands and thousands of people as we're seeing in Gaza. So that's something that is currently very, very trending and hot in global news.
Oh yes, matters Middle East and the conflict that persists there. Other quick highlights pale chini, vidokezo zaidi. Ole Lenku alenga cheo cha Waiguru, pia anataka kuwa mwenyekiti wa COG. Serikali yazuiwa kuuza KICC, na hii ni habari ambayo Wakenya wengi watafurahia. Sasa KICC koti imesema haiwezi kuuzwa tu kiholela. Serikali wameambiwa
airport KICC.
Airport hii ni kama imeenda.
What's next?
Pale juu gavana kuandikisha taarifa. Gavana Abdul Swamad Nasser atajwa katika kesi ambapo 4 wameshtakiwa kwa ulawiti na kumteka nyara mwanablogu. And finally, I can see my favorite team makes it to the front page of Taifa Leo. Arsenal na Liverpool Carabao Cup leo. Raheem Sterling, chipukizi kadhaa wa Gunners wanatarajiwa kwanza. So Carabao Cup kicks off this today, and Liverpool and Arsenal will be in action.
Right now, this is the Daily Nation, and a picture that you're seeing over there is of Mr. Adil Arshad Khawaja, who was until recently mostly known for his legal practice and chairmanship of the Safaricom board. Now, his role in the recent controversial multi-billion shilling deals involving the Indian conglomerate Adani Group has, however, put his name on the lips of many Kenyans. But in case you're wondering who this man really is, who actually calls President William Ruto his longtime friend, then you need to check out page 7, because they're going to be giving details onto his life. And of course, just a profile of how his career has been through the years. Indimuli mentioned something about his smile. I have to ask you again, Indimuli, what is your thought on his smile?
It's a choice of picture they put there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting picture.
They could have put any other, like, for example, you see the choice of picture they have there of the president and his deputy. It tells a story. So he has a very interesting smile on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Why is he smiling?
Ruto's Mr. Fix-It. Okay, let me not say more.
Yeah. Ruto's mixed a fix it according to the Daily Nation.
Yes, according to the Daily Nation.
At the top there, we see the last moments of intern doctor who took her life after 36-hour shift on page 3. You know, this comes following the strike that medical interns have had. 36 hours of work, and then she decided that it's not worth it. You know, they've still not been paid. These are things that they've been crying about. They've been talking about for very long. And that is a very, very unfortunate story right there.
You know, the brain can only function to a certain point.
Yes.
After that, it starts creating its own problems. So if at all you are under pressure for 36 hours
A day and a half.
Yes, what does that do? Because you need to sleep.
Yeah.
Any normal human being needs to sleep. But anyway, very sad story.
Another story right there, JKI Lee's probe. MPs now call for a forensic audit into the secret, in quotes, deal on page 12.
All right.
Once again, Mr. Adani right there making our headlines. Does he know that he's on our pages almost every day?
Does he care? That's the problem.
Well,
Does he care?
yeah. Does he care?
Down here on the front page of the Daily Nation, we have perhaps the biggest talking point this week, and has to do with the fallout between the president and his deputy. But now here, they ask a question. Is it a political diversion? The growing rift between President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua is overshadowing the pressing crisis the country is facing and diverting attention from critical national issues. So could that be the plan? That, yes, let's keep guys focused on this drama.
Distracted.
Yeah, totally distracted.
Preoccupied.
Yes.
And it is
Meanwhile, a lot of other things are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, this is crazy because, as you said in Nimuli, our papers today have all sorts of news from suicide, from, you know, the police actually questioning where we get it all wrong with the police.
University funding.
University funding. When it comes to the Business Daily, we're seeing MPs top the list of 64 billion shilling SACCO loan defaulters. So there is so much going on, but here we are focusing on the fallout.
Yes. At least the Standard has gone, I don't see any news of that fallout on the front page of the Standard, where we get it all wrong with police, and they say it starts with hiring. Report by a reforms task force led by retired Chief Justice David Maraga reveals that massive corruption at recruitment and training of many officers has led to an end product that is not grounded in matters law and security that are the pillar of their functions. That story is on page 6 and 7, and they're basically saying it does not end wrong. It starts wrong from the recruitment.
That's where the issue is, because if they're not recruited properly with law and
garbage
order...
in, garbage out.
Okay.
I said it. Finally, the People Daily.
That is the People Daily. Judges are busybodies. Turf Wars angered by the declaration by the High Court that CDF was unconstitutional. MPs unload vitriol on the judiciary, depicting it as an ivory tower out of touch with reality in a move that could put the legislature on collision course with the bench, and that's on page 7. Fury over CDF ruling. You know, we do have photos over there of bad girl, Millie Odhiambo.
Bad girl Millie.
Yeah, it just caught my eye immediately.
But you know, the irony of this is that what the court is simply saying is the way it's set up is unconstitutional.
Absolutely.
Whose job is it to legislate? It is the members of the National Assembly. So they do it wrong, then they accuse the judiciary of being busybodies.
Yeah.
But when I'm fix the law.
Blame game.
Just fix the law, then everything will be okay. Well, that's the People Daily.
The judiciary
today
is saying that the MPs...
We will simply implement the law as it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So those are the dailies, and we'll be back to take a look at them with the panelists later on. Let's take a look at the cartoons today and see what they're focusing on. That's a cartoon on the Standard today. It has 2 frames of with caricatures of the president. And it takes us back to July 2024 in Nairobi, where he said, he was asking the Ford Foundation that the money they are giving out to fund violence,
how will they benefit?
Muta benefit aje Ford Foundation muna fund violence.
Very stern face right there.
Then yesterday,
he said, we appreciate the Ford Foundation's commitment to safeguarding democracy. And there's a smile on his face there.
And you know, these are why we ask questions. Okay, so when a politician stands on a podium to speak, exactly what are you telling people?
Do you know, I feel like there should be somebody who should be fact-checking to see what they said 3 months ago. Because look at this, the media does not forgive.
No, we won't.
Yes.
That's not our job to forgive.
Absolutely.
Forgiveness is for the deities. Now, take a look at the People Daily.
I now believe Judas Iscariot was a Kenyan. Wow.
Now, they talk about some of the state entities that have either been sold or are in the process of being leased out, including the JKIA. So
Port of Mombasa has a question mark.
So ameweka ile ni kama ya
Clearance sale.
Clearance sale, 50% off.
All items.
Port of Mombasa, question mark. JKIA sold. Sichi Mortuary,
You don't
bado.
know.
Opposition,
Sold.
sold. State House, bado. Superhighway,
Sold.
KICC,
Sold.
Parliament,
Not yet.
Democracy,
Sold.
I now believe Judas Iscariot was a Kenyan. Not me, it's a commentator on this cartoon. On the People Daily.
You know what's interesting for me is the end of season.
End of
now.
season. Oh, yeah.
So for me, that's what stands out. But yes, this is very
I love this cartoon. I think that's my best cartoon today. The one on the Daily Nation looks a bit complex, but it talks about the changing comments about and sentiment about Ford Foundation by the president.
And there's a meter here, cold, tepid, warm, very warm.
But they're calling it donor meter. So probably when the donor funding is low, it's very cold.
Yeah, and when it's high, warm.
And when the donor funding comes the government's way, and we're very cordial with Ford Foundation.
The president is currently in New York, as
singing praises of
Ford Foundation. So we think that the donor meter currently, as we speak, is warm.
Yes, it's favoring.
That's where he's standing, almost into very warm.
And that is what determines government policy.
Absolutely.
The donor meter. How much are you giving us?
Yes.
Kama uleti pesa, tutakwambia wewe ndo unafund mambo ingine.
Maandamano.
And finally, on the Standard, we have a skunk there.
Wow.
We have this is a star, cartoon on the Star. We have a skunk there.
Smart people read the Star.
Right on top of the Senate building.
And that's Adani right there.
So the Adani is a skunk. According to this cartoon, not me. And the person actually trying to deodorize the skunk is
Get rid of the smell.
Yeah, is none other than the new CS for Treasury, John Buddy, who curiously had talked of the skunk about the president's cabinet a few years back. So that's a cartoon on the Star this morning.
All right, so yes, remember Freddie Nimuli will be back very shortly as he discusses these matters with a very interesting panel.
Yes, Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River will be in studio alongside Pamela Odhiambo, former woman representative Migori County, and Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo. Do stand by for that. And you can be part of this conversation as well through our social media pages on X at TV47 News, on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can tag me directly on X at Freddie Nimuli.
And at Shiksha Aurora. And thereafter, remember, we'll be having a very interesting conversation with the youth of today. We've got 10 of them in studio as we discuss and completely dissect online pressure in relationships. And we're going to hear it from the horse's mouth indeed, because these are the Gen Zs, and they're the ones who are actually in the public eye when it comes to these relationships in social media as well. Some of them actually are well known, so we'll be asking them how things have been for them in this space of social media.
All right,
Instagram,
so get interacting with us. For now, let's take a break. We'll be back.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, We inspire,
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
motivate,
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Freddie Ndimuli. We now want to take a look at the big headlines this morning. University fee burden laid bare in Parliament is a big headline on the Star. Ruto's Mr. Fix-It and links to Adani Group. They're talking about Adil Arshad Kawaja, who's said to be the main link between Kenya's government and the Adani Group. That's the front page of the Daily Nation. Where we get it all wrong with police. Is a big headline on the front page of the Standard this morning. And of course, the biggest talking point has been the fallout between the president and his deputy and the looming impeachment. We will be getting there and discussing that as well. Today, we're privileged to have with us in studio Danson Mungatana, Senator, Tana River County. Karibu sana, Senator.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes. Also joining us on phone is Pamela Odhiambo, former woman representative, Migori County. Good morning, Pamela. Karibu sana as well to TV47.
Good morning to you and good morning, Kenya.
All right. We are hoping that Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo will be joining us as we go along. Now, we start off with the senator, because you've been making headlines for various reasons. I know there's that censure motion, and we'll get to that. But there's another very interesting discussion that's going on, and it's linked to you as well, and it has to do with the regulation of churches.
Yes.
Yes. And you filed the Religious Organization Bill of 2024.
Yes.
Which has received quite some opposition from church leaders. The Pentecostal church leaders have come out, some saying that it is tantamount to persecuting Christianity. They're being punished for the wrongs of one person. Now, this law proposes, among other things, punishment for those who go against the law in as far as religion and churches are concerned. And many people are wondering, Senator, what is the motivation? I know you were part of the committee that probed the Shakahola massacre.
Yes.
And many people will say, but that is an isolated case. Is there really need to put everyone under one blanket in as far as this regulation is concerned?
Good morning, Kenyans listening to me. Thank you, Fred, for having me in your studio. A lot of people forget that the number of deaths in Shakahola were more than the bomb blast that occurred and killed people around Cooperative Building. There were more than the attacks of terrorists in Shanzu. There were more than the attacks of terrorists here in Nairobi in Westland Mall. Let me tell you, people died, and the exact number is not known because the bodies continue to come up. In fact, they had just to stop at some point because, again, of constraints of finances. And they will resume the activities of DNA testing, trying to get if there are more bodies. The massacre, this is one event that has killed more people than any other event that took place within the history of the Republic of Kenya, other than the Mau Mau killings. So, when this happened, the Senate set up a committee of senators to investigate and get to know what is the problem. And one of the things that kept on coming, because we have to meet people, we have to meet, we went to Kilifi many times, we took a lot of views from stakeholders in Kenya, here in Nairobi and elsewhere. We went down that side to Kisumu and so on. In fact, in one of the visits, we even went and found people who had been locked out in churches and chained, you know, apparently for prayers. But in fact, they had mental issues. And the Senate was able to order, and some of those people were brought to justice. And this was happening in a church, okay? And the setup also in Shakahola was a church, quote unquote. Let me just say that. The pastor, quote unquote, was again someone who was supposed to be running a religious organization. So after finishing our term, we had to make recommendations, and these are the recommendations. That, get Mackenzie arrested, do DNA, reunite families, and we have to regulate the way we operate as a nation in terms of religion. And this regulation is for religious organizations. It is not for Christians alone. It will affect Muslims, Hindus, even African traditional religion. Okay. Every person is supposed to be regulated. Because, the questions that Kenyans were asking us, where was government? And that was the question, where was government? Okay. And then when you look at it, people will tell you, when someone says, I am ready to die, when someone says, because of his faith, he has been asked to fast until death, so that he can meet Jesus. Only that the leader of that organization is saying, for me, I'll be the last one to come, My wife will be the last one to come. My children will be the last one. There is a lacuna in terms of the criminal law, because where there is consent, there's a problem. The criminal law starts having issues because it's not a normal law. It's not a normal crime. So you have to start thinking around radicalization. What do we do with radicalization? Okay, we have laws on extremism, religious, not religious, but extremism. But are they covering what we have? So therefore, we made a proposition for the organization and control of behavior within that. But the balancing was very difficult because the committee had to look at answering that question, where was government? That is, where was the state? But also, the Constitution says there is freedom of religious worship. So you had to sort of come up with something. And some of the recommendations were clashing because you will have a group of pastors who will say, we are ready. We must have people who have gone to school, who can demonstrate that they went to theological school so that sound theology is shown. The others will tell you, no. Okay. It's a calling. Okay? And so you go on, and now coming to that issue of the penalties, if there is a breach on all this organization, what penalties should we have? Again, these were discussed, and this is a proposal. Okay. But let me finish this.
Allow me to bring in Pamela at this point, and I'll come back to you, Senator.
Yes.
Pamela, there's a clear conflict here with people arguing that this proposed bill is a direct infringement on the freedom of worship. The Senator does recognize this fact because some of the proposals could be argued could be tantamount to criminalizing freedom of worship and religious association. We have people who preach on the streets. If at all they are found not to have gone to college or registered to be a church, not to have gone to a theological college, then they are punished with either a fine or imprisonment. This is something very dicey. Do you think this is the best approach, offering more legislation in issues that are so hard to balance when it comes to religion? Pamela.
Thank you very much, Ndimuli, and thank you very much, Senator. I think as both you and the Senator have acknowledged, the balance between the...
Hello, Pamela.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm happy that the Senator is acknowledging that our Constitution pretends that Kenyans, one is a non-religious state, and the Kenyans are free to worship in whatever manner they choose right for themselves. And that is because we acknowledge that religion has got something to do with spiritual issues. And as he puts it right, many people get conviction and a call, and they feel they have something to offer to the spiritual being of the humans that live in Kenya. And therefore, with that in mind, it is very interesting that he's also saying that the major tackling question of Kenyans, especially on the issues of Shakahola and any other curious things that have been happening in the name of church or in the name of God, Kenyans were asking, where is the government? That means there is certain happenings which even those Kenyans who worship feel like they are outrageous and criminal in nature and cannot be allowed. And what is the government doing about it? For example, when people are dying and several of them are buried, and the government or the security, the authorities around there is quiet about it, then what is the problem? So to me, I think much as we want to pretend that the case, especially of Shakahola, was ambiguous one, I think it was a straightforward case. Somebody has gone and stepped out of even the biblical fundamentals and whichever other religion, but this particular one is claiming to be a Christian, so let me base my argument on the Bible. There is nowhere in the Bible where leaders of a church are instructed to fast to death. I know personally as a Christian, we do fast and pray. The Jesus that we believe in fasted for 40 days and he didn't die. And we also fast periodically on and off, and we don't die. So a situation where it is established that people are radicalized, to use the senator's word, and brainwashed to the extreme. So this ceases now to be a religious practice. It becomes an unusual thing that the government takes action and saves the people. And if they are now found to be mentally insane, then such need rehabilitation. And that's why I'm thinking the proposed religious bill for religious organizations, it's some of it may be good, I may agree with them, but much of it is unnecessarily punishing everybody for the sins of a few that needs to be dealt with. Because the Shakahola thing, the government can logically deal with it to an end. They can shut down the place, they can arrest that pastor, they can pick these people, the remaining ones who are still alive. Because this is express cheating. When somebody is fasting people to death and then he says himself and the children are coming last, this is treachery. This is a kind of lie, an open lie that needs to be stopped.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
my
Pamela.
position is the area which I think should be checked almost in all churches, and some of these churches that want to go to the extreme of exploiting and extorting Watu, is the concept of financial accountability, because I think, again, the Bible is very clear, and all other religious organizations are very clear doctrines on what do we do with money that comes to church.
I get what you're saying.
I think it is being punitive unnecessarily, and it is not well thought out as yet. It is punishing Kenyans for no reason.
Okay, thank you so much, Pamela.
There is freedom of worship in Kenya, and if anybody digresses from what the doctrines of the state religion subscribes to, which is known, if it is the Quran, we have it, if it is the Bible, we have it.
Thank you,
then
Pamela.
such people should just be dealt with as criminals.
Yes, because we do have the penal code in place, and allow me to bring in Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo into this conversation. Karibu sana, good morning, Wakili. We continue discussing this proposed religious organizations bill that has been tabled by Senator Danson Mugatana before the Senate. And do you see a risk that we are tankering without provision in the Constitution of freedom of worship? Yes, when we talk about, of course, we'll always base it maybe on the Bible, the Quran, because those are the two major religions that we interact with. But it means that I could decide to worship a rock, and according to the Constitution, I have not committed a crime. Do you see this bill tinkering with that, trying to interfere with this freedom? And do you see a risk there? Because yes, we talk about financial accountability. That should not be the business of any piece of legislation, in as far as religion is concerned in this country.
Thank you, Fred, for the invitation. The issue with the controlling or regulating religious activities is actually a very big, risky affair, because then you are trying to put, you are trying to put together church and I mean, state and religion. You're trying to thin, so to say, the line between the church, the state and religion. I don't want to say church because, of course, religious activities is touching on all religions. And then you've said that we have interacted with Bible and Quran. Fred, you know, the funny thing is there are so many Hindus in the country, for example, but their manner of worshipping, manner of interacting on religious issues is so silent that you don't see them, citing their, holy books and all that. But for Bible and the Quran, their calling is that they should speak out. But in terms of regulating it, it's very complex, because I think where the state should look at is the other pieces of legislation. For example, there are people who are powerful enough to call upon environmental energy and what is now being researched as metaphysics, calling upon outside energy that we don't see. And for some reasons, they are that endowed to actually call upon that power. And there would be nothing wrong. But it would be wrong the moment you direct that negative or wrong or opposite energy towards hurting someone. And that's why you see... Yeah. Pardon?
Obvious criminality.
Yeah, and that's where it's a crime. And that's why you see there's an act, for example, Witchcraft Act. I mean, you can easily say that if a pastor calls people at the front of the church and starts to do those things they do, like whatever, and then people fall down. What do you call that? You see, so, and you cannot criminalize that, by the way, but you see, a person might fall down and actually hit his head and probably become epileptic or get unconscious, and that is a criminal offense, isn't it? And it's covered under the penal code. So I think that the state should, in as much as it has interest to ensure that religious activities are sanitized, I think what they should do, Honorable Senator, I think they should do something like what professional bodies do. Like, for example, the Law Society of Kenya. It is allowed to regulate itself. And it comes up with, several rules to contain how the professionals within that entity do the same thing with surveyors, medical practitioners, and all that. I think that religious organizations should be given a standard by the state. A standard means people cannot be hurt. Religious activities cannot kill people. Religious activities cannot, make people imbecile or go hungry forever until they die. Such things should be stipulated in our penal code and other laws. And then the state should be clear to the religious organizations that this is where we want, whatever you do, we don't want to see people dying because you are praying with them in the bush. So that if they die without necessarily regulating the religious activities, if they die, then it falls in the realm of criminality.
Okay. And Senator, I'll come back to you after the break so that you can give us clarity before we move to the next discussion. You're watching Morning Cafe right here at TV47. Time now for a break.
Looking to pursue quality competence?
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? As number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. I'm still in studio with Senator Danson Mungatana, Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo, and Pamela Odhiambo, former MP, Migori County, is joining us via phone. We want to wrap up this discussion about the religious organizations bill that you've presented before Senate. And there are very many questions, but there's also the political question. You've seen how the president interacts with churches and how he has had interactions with churches since he came in. And one wonders, even if successful at the Senate, will it get the support of the president, given the fact that so many religious leaders have already come out to say, no, this is not the way to go? That, even as you clarify some of the issues raised by the other two panelists.
May I recall that in Uganda, there was a religious organization that told people, bring all your money, bring whatever, and then we are going to heaven. So they went for something like Acacia, which is an overnight prayer meeting, and the leaders burnt everyone. Now, it is not clear whether they died in that flame or the leaders disappeared, but for sure the money and everything went. So in Rwanda now, President Kagame, what he did, he closed all 6,000 churches. And he said, you must adhere to these regulations. You bring a qualification that you have gone to school to study theology. You bring your bank accounts, you bring it, and then we will register you. And that is not the approach, because the political setup in Kenya, as you said, is more maybe open and more democratic. You see, in Nigeria, they decided that, like what Wakili here was trying to refer to, you will not have live miracles. You can't tell people, tune in to the TV, we are doing a healing, send your donations. It was closed down because of the state suffering the same thing we were suffering as a committee, a Shakahola Massacre Committee. That how do you balance public safety vis-a-vis religious freedom? So one of the things that has come out even in this discussion is, can we have self-regulation? Yes, self-regulation will be there, but there's also the criminal angle of it. How do we do the enforcement? Okay, that's why you have those penalties there. So there is self-regulation actually in that, because before you register now, you're supposed to have some peer review, some kind of Fred is a good man, we know him, he has a calling, and we can attest to that. People from where you are going to practice your religion come from. So there are a number of things that have accommodated the principles of self-regulation. But there are issues also that have accommodated the enforcement beat of the state. So we have that issue. And I'm telling you, Fred, this is not the first time that a bill regarding organizing religious worship in Kenya has had difficulties. It is not the first time. There have been bills before. The Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, when he came before our committee, also told us he also brought a bill and it had difficulties and they withdrew it. Now, we have tried to take all manner of views. We have put it together. And as all bills, the process is very similar. We have now gone for the first reading. It has been taken to the relevant committee. Now, at that committee stage, I'm inviting all my brothers, all my sisters who are practicing religion and you feel you have something to say, to watch the space. When they advertise, you go and give your views on how we are going to improve it. Now, we may not all agree, but the committee that will handle it, it won't be our committee, because our committee was ad hoc. It means we were handling for a specific period of time, and then we wound up and gave the report and the recommendation. But there is a standing committee in the House that will be hearing, and they can give all manner of proposals. So they shouldn't take it that it's a done deal, it's a final. It is never like that with lawmaking. On the issue of whether the president will support it or not, the president, of course, has powers to assent or to reject any bill. And then if he signs, that is it, that is okay. That is after the second reading, the debate, after the committee stage where amendments are going to be brought in, and then third reading, and then it goes for presidential assent. And because we have two houses, after you finish with it in the Senate, the process has to go to the National Assembly. And equally, National Assembly, when it does its work, they bring it to the Senate. After that, it is when the president will sign the law. Now, the Constitution says the president has powers to assent, and therefore it becomes law. The president has powers to reject, but he doesn't reject and say, I don't want. He has to write the reasons and ask the law to be amended to fit with those reasons. And if we want now, the Senate or the National Assembly wants to override the president, we have to raise 2/3 of our numbers to defeat the reasons that the president has advanced. So the Constitution has these checks and balances. I want everyone who is involved in this matter to apply their mind and see if we can sort of prevent another Shakahola ever from happening in this country. If it is possible, but if it is not, I don't know, because we have to do something. We can't keep quiet.
We definitely have to do something.
Yeah.
But Fred, how do you control, for example, voice or worshipping? It's very tricky actually. Okay, fine, we will see how it navigates through. I
think we leave that to the public participation.
I don't think the president will actually assent it. Him being a free, what do you call them? It's not in the like Catholic or
free Pentecost.
Yeah, free pre-Pentecostal, and these, more, people who worship by way of... If you go to the SDA church, for example, I mean, any movement is big. Why are you moving? If you go to even the Catholics, and unless you're singing in the choir, if you try to regulate these things interfaith-wise, what is acceptable in this religion is not acceptable here. So in my view, really, all this... regulation should be put in other legislation. Not,
and I think where senators left it, that the process is still not a done deal. It is a proposed bill, the Religious Organizations Bill of 2024. It has not even gone for the first reading yet.
No, it has done first reading. It's gone to committee now.
All right. And there'll be room for public participation, and a lot of this will be discussed at that level. So yes, the conversation will continue. I want us to move to another issue now, because our time is moving very fast, and still linked to the senator, the censure motion against the deputy president. Madam Pamela Odhiambo, you've been a legislator, and you understand the difference between a censure motion, an impeachment motion, and all these things. And many people are questioning. There is already threat of an, let me say, looming impeachment before the National Assembly. Many people are wondering, what's the necessity of a censure motion before the Senate at this time? And what is the consequence of a censure motion? Is it necessary in this instance? Madam Odhiambo.
Thank you very much, Indimuli. A censure motion can easily turn into an impeachment. When we are doing a censure, somebody is being scrutinized to find out, having done something that is suspicious, then facts are established during censure. But then, if found guilty, then they can proceed to impeach. And the case of the deputy president, what is not really clear to me in all this hullabaloo is like, what exactly is criminal about what he has done, or what is his behavior, because or what is illegal? Because I think what we have been fed or seen in public is some simple disagreements, like difference of views between him and the president that is deputizing. And I'm just wondering, is this worth all this? Because if they have some issue, some decision to be made in the office, and he has a different view, to me, they should be able to converse and talk and explain to each other until they are convinced and agree on what to do. But all these things that are going on, to me, I think they are just political issues, personal interests, derailing Kenyans from focusing on the very serious activities that our government is supposed to carry out. And so I'm wondering, because if you look at the Constitution, the office of the president and that of the deputy, as it were today, they are almost intertwined and one. So the fact that they are not able to agree as pertaining certain issues that they need to discuss and carry out in the country, I wonder what this hullabaloo is all about.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. And yes, indeed, the Daily Nation on the front page appears to ask the same question. Is this a political diversion? The growing rift between the president and his deputies overshadowing pressing crisis the country is facing and diverting attention from critical national issues. Wakili, there's already, all politicians are now threatening and saying we will impeach you. Definitely we are waiting to see if that will actually happen. Then now there's a censure motion. The consequence of a censure motion is what many people are asking. And is it just an opportunity for people to express their views and tell off the deputy president over what Madam Pamela says? Could just be a political disagreement.
I think it's a pre-impeachment, not process really. It's like an earlier threat to the deputy president, probably. And I mean, we are happy Honorable Mungatana is in the studio. He's brought up this motion. I think he wants to, first of all, test the waters and see whether the deputy president can probably withdraw remarks, do some kind of apology, and probably try to showcase more respect for the president.
Consequential? Because many people are, okay, what is the consequence of
No, it's really, I think it's consequential politically, because you see, these people thrive on integrity, appearance of integrity, populism. They don't have so much anyway beyond people supporting you and elevating you to a level of mheshimiwa or mkuu, honorable. So when that kind of dirt, so to say, is again placed on your doorstep, I mean, you then look demeaned and small and probably not as powerful as you look. And I think that is the whole import of those who are opposing the deputy president. Exactly impeaching him is, I think, a very tall order, because even if he were to be impeached indeed by parliament or whatever, he will go to court. And from the little we have studied in terms of what exactly has he done, it does not, in my humble view, meet the threshold to say that the Article 150 has been breached and the deputy president can be impeached. So it is really, threatening him around. And let me tell you, if they succeed to impeach him in parliament and he still succeeds to come back from court, I mean due to court, directions, he will still not have the same impetus, energy, and the power that he actually has today. I mean, because, they will take away some security, take away the cooks and all that. So he will be an ordinary person in the street. And I am sure that is the intention of the movers of this impeachment motion.
And even before we get to the impeachment, Senator, let's focus on the censure motion. Because I've seen a number of people, even online, try to correct you, including very senior lawyers or even a cabinet secretary, and saying the impeachment process is a National Assembly affair. It has very little to do with the Senate. And the reason for this is people feel that the impeachment motion is more consequential. It has the capability of removing this individual from office. The censure motion, on the other hand, people are wondering what's the consequence of it? What should we expect after this motion is actually discussed in the Senate, if at all? Then what? That's the question.
Now, a censure motion is a motion that, if a resolution is achieved, it is a strong disapproval of conduct, and in this case, conduct unbecoming. Conduct that is beneath the office of the holder of that public office. It's a strong condemnation. So I condemn this, but you can go beyond that and get a resolution and say, we are censuring you. Now, in some jurisdiction, you can censure and say you fine the person who has been censured. But the advocate here has actually seen it, because even lawyers, you live on reputation. And even at other levels, let me tell you, any person whose name is placed on the floor of the House to discuss your conduct by 47 senators, my friends, you would not like it, because anything can come up. And in this case, the complaint is very simple. You took an oath of office for the execution of your functions under the Constitution as a principal assistant to the president. And then somewhere along the way, you started very well, but somewhere along the way, you decided that the work actually that I'll be doing is to defend one region of the Republic of Kenya and push for its interest. So the question people have been asking, and my voters and others, what about us? Where is the deputy president that, my deputy president, where is he? If this one is just for one region. So the question then becomes, should we amend the Constitution so that now if there's a deputy president for Murima, there's another one for the coast or the sea, there's another one for the desert, there's another one, the desert areas of Kenya, there's another one for the Rift Valley of Kenya. Should we do that? No, it doesn't make sense. So we are asking, come back to line. What you're doing, it is against the Constitution 260, Article 260 says, as a public officer, you should behave in a certain manner. There are principles under Article 10 of the Constitution. Preach unity, you know, non-discrimination. Don't discriminate against the people of Kenya. Hold that office with the dignity that it requires.
You've been a legislator, Bwana.
So let me
the question is, has previous instances of censure motions resulted in any removal from office or any substantive happening after that?
There's something called the evil in the heart of men. People want to see other people not corrected, but hurt and finished. Okay? If somebody does a wrong, that person should be warned and corrected. Okay? If somebody persists in doing that wrong, that person now should be disciplined, you know, as appropriate. So from where I sit, the continuous utterances that were against the Constitution were demeaning that office, and therefore we filed a notice of censure. And that discussion, when we get a resolution, it is not to throw that person out, okay? It is to bring him in order.
Correct him.
It is to push him in. So impeachment is different from censure. But the problem with people, including the so-called cabinet secretary, they don't read. You have this thing been going on in the media. You are not reading what is before you. You are answering a correct question, but you are answering very correctly, but the wrong question.
Okay.
You see, so we are not discussing impeachment. We are discussing the question of...
And it draws me to a story on page 8 of the Standard, which talks about what has happened previously, how censure motion forced out Moi's vice president and Kibaki's minister. That's why I was asking, historically, have censure motions been...
No. Now, the old constitution, when you bring in a vote, is not a censure motion. Those ones are votes of no confidence. Now, in the old constitution, if we pass a vote of no confidence, if we actually vote to pass a vote of no confidence in a minister, that minister has to go.
It's equivalent to impeachment.
It's equivalent to impeachment. Okay? So those instances were impeachment, and it is totally different from what we wanted. We wanted to achieve a very definite thing. We are saying, the holder of that office, please, can you serve all Kenyans? You are the principal assistant of the president.
So do you feel, Senator, that the impeachment, we are not yet there at a level where he should be impeached? A censure motion is more appropriate?
As at the time I filed it on Monday, that was my very strong feeling.
Okay.
But you know, we live in a country where everybody, you know, because I've talked with colleagues and everybody, some people are saying that no, we are done with this. This man, we must deal with him, you know, in a more difficult way. So what has happened is we have taken that motion before the Speaker, in keeping with the normal way. And Wakili here will know, you file a matter and you wait for its approval and allocation of date. Unlike in court, you know, in court when you file that case, even to say that judge must be removed, he's not qualified to hear your case because you feel he's biased, it must be heard. Okay. But in the Senate and the National Assembly, you file the matter before the Speaker, and it is the Speaker to approve that this matter should go for debate. So that is where it is now. We are waiting for...
Fred, I think relationships are very important, and I think the head of state and deputy president should have a relationship. I mean, they started well. They should have that relationship, and I think it should take the president just a phone call to tell his deputy to toe the line and try to shape up.
Aren't we way beyond that?
What I mean, you know, we are suffering, by the way. This impeachment process and whatever is hurting us, is hurting the ordinary citizen. I mean, and Uhuru Kenyatta said just barely 2 years ago that with our level, the type of governance, you have a president, you know, taking about 2 years to settle, you know, problems of the elections and all that, and then another 2 years trying to work. Now, 2 years he's been trying to settle everything, and you saw now he's settled with Raila and everyone. Now he's starting now another war, or rather another war is erupting between the president and his deputy. So when are we going to get service? And by the way, all criminal elements, or rather people who don't mean good, will take advantage of this kind of tension, and we will never get service.
Okay. Pamela, you were a member of the 12th Parliament when trouble started between the then President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy then, who's now President William Ruto. There were threats of impeachment then, and I remember Leader of Majority then, Aiden Duale, saying it is not a walk in the park. Impeaching a deputy president is not an easy thing. This time round, we're seeing and hearing threats on political platforms. Many people saying this time round you are going, and they're shouting themselves hoarse. And I'm wondering, if at all they're so sure they have the deputy president already in their crosshairs, why shout out here? Why don't you just pull the trigger? Do you really think it is going to amount to anything, these impeachment threats?
That's why I'm saying, I told you earlier that what I think is going on currently is mere political rhetoric that is kind of overshadowing what is critical to be discussed. Because I think if there is anything so serious like what the senator says, gross misconduct, because that's what I know, we have not been told of any criminal offense that the deputy president has actually committed. And they are talking about his utterances and all that. Strangely enough, I think we have also had incidences where we have seen this deputy president visit various parts of this country, and much as he keeps talking about the mountain, but you know, whatever may be happening to him at State House may be making him to push himself back to his home ground and just to solicit that home support. And that's why I agree with my lawyer there, who is saying that the president actually has the power to sort out whatever is not right between him and the deputy Gachagua. The fact that he has reached out to Raila Amolo Odinga and brought him in the camp should not be a real reason to make Gachagua exit. And these things, like I'm saying, they are in office things, or rather maybe the disagreements are on personal grounds that have nothing to do with the development agenda of this country. And therefore, I am saying, if by then Duale and the parliamentarians were thinking it is not a walk in the park to impeach the deputy president, now what makes it much easier, I wonder. And then, like you are saying, if they really think there is something serious enough, these talks and these shouts and all these every other time when people call a meeting, instead of telling us what development or some of the serious issues that Kenyans are crying about are being solved, like the case of the university students, the medical interns, or the agricultural sector, all these people, Kenya is crying. And we are all told about we are going to impeach Gachagua. So let them impeach him and we see if that can solve the problems that actually are, according to me, more stressing the Kenyan nation. Because like Uhuru Kenyatta did during their disagreements with President Ruto, whatever work that could go on went on, despite President Ruto's going all over the place campaigning for himself and all that. If they can impeach him, then let them go ahead and do it and bring the country to a working mode. If they cannot impeach him, then let them keep quiet and ignore whatever utterances it is making and move on, because I believe the deputy president cannot stop the whole government doing what ought to be done.
All right.
That is my take.
Okay, and Senator, we've seen these threats and it's becoming very noisy. If you're going to punch someone, you just pull a punch. You don't threaten ndakupiga. They definitely want the deputy president out. But probably they realize, and it's on the front page of the Taifa Leo, anasema kibarua kutimua Gachagua, mchakato wa kutimua naibu rais ni sawa na ule wa kufurusha rais. Na ana hadi mahakama ya juu kusaka haki. The members of parliament who are threatening definitely know this. It's not going to be easy. But the threat of impeachment to the deputy president could mean a lot of things if successful. It would mean he would be locked out politically. And a lot of advice going towards the deputy president is, before they impeach you, resign. Is that the plan and that's why they're shouting horse to force the president, the deputy president out before the impeachment happens.
First of all, let me say that impeachment, unlike the motion of censure, impeachment is a very legalistic process. It has to begin from the National Assembly, if it's the president or the deputy president. It has to begin from the county assembly, if it's a governor or the deputy governor. And then it comes to Senate, and we sit as a court, and there are lawyers who will, in fact, the first business is the charges of impeachment being read. So the impeached person will be read charges. It's a very legalistic, and then the entire Senate will sit as a court. Sometimes we can opt to say a committee will go and sit as a court and bring us a report. Now, it is a process where people will sit and receive evidence and judge that evidence. And that evidence, there will be cross-examination, re-examination, just like in court. A motion of censure, on the other hand, is a very, very strong political tool. You will come and it is all over. You will say a lot of things so long as they are within the ambit of that motion. So this one is a political thing. This one is a very legalistic thing. Now, these two processes are independent and they are not dependent on each other. So if you originate an impeachment motion from the National Assembly, I wish one of them was here in this studio to tell us whether they have started collecting signatures or not. But let me tell you, the moment those signatures are collected and the moment that motion is filed, there's no escaping this, because they will debate you, whether you like it or not. The matter will proceed, whether you participate or not. It's just like charges in court. It will go on in absentia, so long as there's proof that you are served and you refuse to come to defend. You are given an opportunity, so you lose that opportunity to defend yourself. And once a resolution is reached there in the National Assembly, they will bring it to the Senate. If you say again that you don't want to come, we will still proceed without your presence. And then a judgment or a confirmation or rejection of the impeachment will be done. So from where I sit, if I confirm, if I was the deputy president or a deputy governor or a governor, and I confirm that these people, my county assembly members, have the numbers, or the National Assembly has the numbers, from where I sit, if I'm still interested in politics, I would resign. But if I know that maybe I'm innocent in whatever I'm being asked, if I know that whatever that is being bandied, I can defend it, then I will stand to defend myself.
And that sounds more like the plan, forcing the deputy president to resign before the impeachment.
And I don't think he will resign. I think Rigathi Gachagua, he has been made stronger with the time. Not that I support him, but this is the true analysis that I don't think he will want to resign, because the nature of political landscape in our country is that you hang on in there until your people call for another election so that they elect you again, or at least you be beaten at the ballot. The issue here now, I think, and this is where the members of parliament and the whole country should look at, is what if it trips, if it slides the wrong way, and probably the people who are supporting Rigathi Gachagua start testing the strength, energy, and power, political power now I mean, of the president himself. You see, the president does not want at the moment to be seen to be losing, even, like if he had 73%, he doesn't want us to know that actually he has 47 now. So there's the other side of the coin that I think the movers should be careful about. You may go to parliament, you expected that you would remove him by the 2/3 majority, but you realize actually that people who did not vote for that motion are more than you expected. That again will expose the president that, oh, kumbe, he's not in control. So I think whether you talk of censure motion, Honorable Senator, I think the ordinary person in the street knows that they want to remove the deputy president. And I think they are all saying, stop it, let's go work.
Do they want him to remove himself? And that's the question, because the threat of impeachment means that he'll be locked out of politics going
You see,
forward.
Kenyans, Fred, are very, very interesting human beings. We are very funny, very interesting. I may not have liked Rigathi Gachagua yesterday, but after all these tribulations, you find that our mercy, so to say, our emotions,
sympathy,
go with him now. And you might be finding that much as we wanted him to stop the shareholding talk and insulting the first family, previous first family, whatever, now people don't feel the same. All that people are saying, go work. Why? Because we've realized once they are in office, they are all saying this and doing the other way. So even if you remove him, how will that make the president more effective? How will our governance be more effective if he's out of office? I don't think any Kenyan thinks that if Gachagua goes, anything would be better. The president is able and capable to run his government, even if they were to do, they were to, to place Gachagua where Ruto was placed in the previous regime. William Ruto will still work. So I think it's a real waste of time, Fred, if you ask me, to actually concentrate our energies to try to remove him. Let them do what they want to do with him politically, but let the nation go forward. We want to see services. And then in 2027, we can decide for ourselves what we want to do here.
Now, the debate has moved to who becomes the next deputy president. Madam Pamela, the past few days we've seen so many pictures of different people on the front pages of possible replacements to Rigathi Gachagua, including the governor of Homa Bay, Gladys Wanga, including the current CS for Interior, Kithure Kindiki. They appear to have moved on this conversation. Do you think that we are jumping the gun?
That's why I told you my small analysis here is saying we are focusing a lot on unnecessary personal interest than what matters in this country. I want to repeat Indimuli. You see, when the impeachment motion has not even been tabled, and Gachagua is still in office, but already people are talking about who is the next deputy president, who is the next what. It sounds silly. It sounds like it is this new deputy president or the current deputy president who is even stopping us from coming up with a working formula that can make our children go to school and proper funding facilities. We are missing the point. We are laboring on things that do not really matter. I'm telling you, even today, if at all the deputy president even just walked out on the president and is not able to go, even he refused to go to the office. I'm telling you, according to what I know, the structure of governance in this country is, and the powers and responsibilities given to the office of the president, which the deputy is part. To be honest, if at all anything will stop happening because the deputy is not there, it will be very, very minimal, according to me. Almost maybe less than 5%. Okay. Because there are organs and there are mechanisms of doing things. And I am pleading with Kenyans, let's take off our eyes politics throughout 24/7, all the years of election, because that process of removing Gachagua and replacing him with somebody else will bring a lot of political issues and movements and lobbying here and there, like you have already identified people who are being listed in the front pages. And by the end of the day, time is passing, no work is going on in Kenya, no solutions are being offered to our problems, and then we go to another election year and the same things continue. We keep baptizing them in new names. This politics throughout our lifetime as a people ought to stop.
All right.
When we work.
And you're very correct, Madam Pamela Odhiambo, because I'm looking at the dailies this morning and varied issues that people should be talking about. University fee burden laid bare in Parliament. About 50% of new students are unable to pay their household fees, and 11,132 have appealed their banding. That is on the Star. on the standard where we get it all wrong with the police, and it says we'd start with hiring. I'm just reading the main stories, the splash. Reports by the Reforms Task Force led by retired Chief Justice David Maraga reveal massive corruption at recruitment of the training of officers, and that is where the problem starts. On the Daily Nation, they talk about Mr. Ruto's Mr. Fix-It and his link to the Adani Group, and on the People Daily, judges are busybodies. Issues to do with the CDF, which I want us to talk about right now. But definitely Kenyans have other things to talk about, but we're being forced to talk about the impeachment of the Deputy President. Do you think, just like they say here on the front page of the Daily Nation, that this is simply a political diversion, Senator?
No, it is not. In fact, while I was filing my motion of censure, for example, the Senate committees were also sitting on issues of Adani. Senate committees were sitting on issues of Kenya Power. And I'm a member of, for example, the Energy Committee. We were working. The fact that the press chooses to highlight this issue or the other issue or the other issue is not within the purview. We have a free nation, free country, free space, and free press. So, you know, like you can see, there are those who are thinking the judges are busybodies, that should be their headlines. Others are thinking that it is the police who are corrupt, that is the headline. It's a free country. So that argument of saying politics is a diversion, people are being forced. It is the media who decide what is critical to the people. What I can say, though, is that when we have this good politics going on, then there is a good nation. There is good governance.
You call it good politics?
When we have good politics, and when I say good politics, I mean the politics is settled. We have good governance, okay? We have all these things falling into place. When the politics is bad, I mean, just like in a home, you know, you could have plans with your spouse to build that, to do this other business and the other. Once there is a relationship issue within the family, within the children, maybe they are big children, that must be fixed first before you deal with the issues of the businesses you are doing, education and so on. So it's critical that people understand that the politics of this country must be fixed. And for it to settle down, then other things become easier to handle. I'm not saying they can't be handled. You can chew gum as you walk. You can chew gum as you talk. But it is easier for everybody when you settle the politics. And it is you know, the Newton's third law, Isaac Newton had 3 major laws. And the third law says, to every force, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, what he started, I'm fighting for Murima. I am the chief of this. And nobody like a vice president or a deputy president has ever done that. Ever done that. So when you start this kind of thing, you should expect an opposite and negative, an opposite and equal reaction to that. So that's why, like, from where I stand, the motion of censure, I was going to tell him, please go back to the correct thing. There are others who think that, no, we need to impeach. Those ones, they have another idea, okay? And it is also a free country. There are those who think, no, and I've heard some other people say, no, because they are together, if we impeach, let's file impeachment for both. It's a free country. File both motions, file even 10 motions. Can you raise the political muscle for it? There's no problem. Okay. We can run 10 senators in Tana River, 20 presidential candidates. There's only going to be one winner. So I'm just saying that it's a free nation. This thing of saying that we are diverting attention and what, it is not true. And nobody has, at least from where I sit, I just thought that let us fix this thing. It is not right. And, you know, I wasn't looking after, you know, pushing anyone out. But there are others who think that something must go. And we have to respect it's a free country. This is what we bargained for as a nation. Okay. So there are those who think, no, let us know. Okay, you focus on your agriculture. Focus on your agriculture until the day you realize that even if I elected whatever, if the cabinet secretary is useless, if the PS is useless, who has been appointed by a useless guy who is on top, you realize that that agriculture is connected to the politics. The football is connected to the politics. The finance is connected to politics. So fix the politics, fix the governance, and we have a good system running.
Something else that needs to be fixed definitely is the process and the way legislation is worked on. We have 2 pieces of legislation that have been quashed by the courts in recent weeks. One of them has made it to the front page of the People Daily, and it has to do with CDF. Finally, the High Court declared CDF unconstitutional. Members of the National Assembly were not very happy yesterday. They had some unprintable words to tell the judiciary, and that's why they're saying judges are busybodies. And the court also quashed a law on sale of KICC and other 10 state funds. The High Court has declared the Privatization Act of 2023 unconstitutional because it was enacted without meaningful public participation. Now, we've talked over and over about how the 13th Parliament has been working and how they've conducted their work in as far as legislation is concerned, and they keep getting these hurdles at the judiciary. Yesterday they were very angry, but one of them stood up, and it's an MP for Ugenya, David Ocheng, and he told them, but this mistake started here. Wrong legislation, you'll find a problem there. Do you agree with him that yes, members of this parliament have failed themselves and keep shouting themselves hoarse whenever they find trouble at the judiciary?
Absolutely. It's actually it's a bad title to read, but again, it's expressing the sentiments of the members of parliament, and this is why, you know, anybody who actually spends time to what Honorable Senator said to read, you know, will actually know that these MPs are completely misplaced. In this case, they are totally wrong. They are off-road. You know, the judge really looks at the things that have been presented before him. Things, meaning the pleadings, you know, the papers, the evidence, and then makes a finding that based on the facts under this law, this CDF Act is actually unconstitutional. And it is okay. They have also outlawed housing, you know, all these kind of legislations. And I think that's why Ocheng is correct. The biggest problem with our 13th Parliament is they have already set their heads and intentions in somebody. Instead of actually saying we are going to defend the country, they are looking at the eyes of the president and looking at how he moves, and they are ready to support how he moves and how he looks. That is not so bad for governance so that the president can perform, but you do not check him. And that's where the problem is. Instead of saying, okay, this is a good proposal, but Your Excellency, we don't have a method through which we can actually implement your proposal. So unless now we change the law. They are literally going forward and doing whatever they have to do to please him. And that's where the problem is. And also the other problem is a lot of these people are not interested to ensure that the resources that the country has are divided equally. If you listen to the stories of this CDF has been successful, to be honest, for some people. But there are people who have never benefited from the CDF. So when you see the level of patronage from members of parliament, the way they hoard their own resources to give certain people who they think supported them. And then there are these people who are not at all, I mean, people who are apolitical. They are not supporting this or that. So they never get these benefits. So I think now at least when the High Court looks at the process of how this law was made and its, you know, functionality and says, no, this is not a correct law under our constitution, now they get bitter. Because it's not, it's not a personal kitty. It's not money in your bank. This is public money. The only thing you do is you are made a patron, and therefore you have this upper hand on how it is distributed. Then you are becoming so bitter with public money. That means the money is being misapplied and misused actually by the members of parliament. Yeah.
Pamela, indeed, the ownership of the CDF by members of the National Assembly is what is the problem. That's the crux of the matter, that it betrays and it defies the philosophy of separation of powers. As a sitting member of the National Assembly cannot be the one executing development projects at constituency level. Definitely the NGCDF and the CDF in totality has had good progress, but it can be managed by any other entity away from the National Assembly. This thing Kenyans do understand. So when members of parliament come out to call out the judiciary and call them busybodies, do you think they're right?
In the Muli, this concept of NGCDF has been on the table, and the debates and accusations forth and back. But let's go back to the job description, the constitutional job description of an MP. I think according to what I know, the legislators are there really to represent their people in that house during discussing important development issues affecting Kenyans. They are there to legislate, and they are also there to do oversight. Now, let me pick the two, legislation and oversight. When the courts look at the premises and declare the CDF unconstitutional, then I agree with Ochieng to a large extent that if there is a mistake of that nature, it must have started in that house, because even it is there where people discuss even the appropriation bill and the bill that actually divides all the resources of this nation to what and what and what, and give different vote heads and approve them. So if it's been found that there was no proper legal process to ground this fund to be in the hands of the MP, then yes, the MPs failed. Whichever batch of the MPs that started off this discussion, and even these ones who are still there, even our 12 of parliament, we must have failed to point out where the mistake is and correct it and give it a proper legislation that can qualify it as a fund that needs to go to the constituencies directly, being patronaged by the MPs. Now, coming to the component of oversight, which I want to connect to the use of the fund and the role of the MP as an overall overseer of the projects that the government does, it to some extent compromises and contradicts the role of MPs as an oversighting body. Why? Because you have stated it well. We are aware there are cases in this country, there are constituencies that you can go to, and you are happy when you are told what CDF has done. But there are other places where you go and you're wondering, why this CDF? Is there, what has changed? And this brings out the components that, to some extent, many of these people have mismanaged and turned this money into their personal property and dispensed it as they wish. Some have stolen it, some have used it wrongly, and there is a lot of outcry. If you go to the grassroots in some of the constituencies, even the so-called bursary that they are supposed to give children, you'll find the children at home, and yet the MP is there to support them, or whoever is having any other money again. So it becomes a problem when the MPs themselves have also squandered the CDF and they don't want to be brought to book. Therefore, they cannot bring to book the financial docket of our country. They can't oversight the president. They can't oversight the executive when they say this project will be done and it is not done and the money is also lost. So, to a great extent, I think it is high time we realize that
some of the countries that we are very proud of and we keep quoting when we have crisis in our country in terms of development and accountability of the funds that we get, their MPs have no money literally to participate in any development agenda.
True.
The executive carries out the development and the MPs deeply scrutinize and claim what on behalf of the people, whatever development, for example, that is supposed to go to Migori County or say Mombasa County,
yes.
The MPs from there would actually ask the executive, why is this development done? So I think
exactly.
Let the MPs bite the bullet, let them correct the wrong of the legislation, and if possible, if they can even give away that fund so that they remain with their constitutional role of oversight, to me, it is not an issue.
Thank you so much, Pamela.
Right.
Thank you so much, Pamela Odhiambo, for your contribution. Senator, even members of the National Assembly do acknowledge that not everything is right. That's why even the NADCO report, among those things that have been given preference is the entrenchment of the NGCDF in the Constitution.
Correct.
Why all this anger? Why calling judges busybodies when you know definitely it is your role that you're here to play?
I don't know why people get so shocked when the Constitution is applied against them, you know, when it looks like it's against them. Because freedom of speech is there. And that's why we created a parliament. In fact, we gave them even parliamentary privilege. So in the Senate, in the National Assembly, you can virtually say anything, because our Constitution allows it. Equally, the same Constitution has given power to judges to declare acts and constitutions. So I don't think we should learn to live with the democracy. In this country, we are a beacon of democracy. So say whatever you want to say, so long as it's within the constitutional framework. I, on the other hand, as a senator, I am very unhappy with this decision, because as a senator, I would want as much money as possible to be devolved to my county. So women rep has some money, I'm happy. MP has some money, I'm happy. Governor's money, in fact, that is my main
Even if
thing.
it defies the Constitution?
Wait, I want as much money as possible to go down there. So from where I sit, I am very unhappy with that decision. Now, this is whether the decision is sound in law or otherwise, okay? But I'm just telling you that the net effect in Tana River County to remove that money from the MP, if today members of a village committee sit down and say we need a new classroom from the JSS, they will be told, send your proposal to the CDF, we'll probably accommodate it in the next financial year. If this money is taken back to the national government, Fred, I'm telling you, for a person to move from the national government to come to Tana River County, to come to that village school, to come and assess and agree, and then create a procurement plan and all that, and then appoint someone to actually execute those works, it will take another 2 years. We are going to go back to a situation where infrastructure for schools is going to go down. And from where I sit, my appeal to the National Assembly and those involved there and the thinkers around, put it in the NADCO, put it in wherever we need to put it, come up with new legislation, but please, let us not lose these funds to the national government. Because once it goes there, my friend, you'll be told, you know, we don't have enough money for teachers. So there'll be no money for any infrastructure for schools.
Okay.
The fund will go to the Ministry of Education, and then it will be subject to the vagaries of planning and whatever. There will be no development down there as far as schools and...
But Fred, I think even today, actually, the central government manages. I mean, the fund, what do you call them? Fund manager.
There's a NGCD board.
Yes, it is actually managed nationally. The problem, I think, in the whole fiasco is members of parliament managing the kitty.
Exactly.
I think it's the issue. So I think, like the senator is saying, yes, to go back to NADCO or wherever, then it comes in such a manner that maybe the locals manage this kitty and not the MP.
Not there.
And the MP are very worried. If actually you remove this, then there is no attraction to go to Parliament.
That's why they are not
Can
very
I
happy.
say one last thing?
Very last.
Every time we talk about CDF, we must pay homage to Honorable Engineer Muriuki Karwe, who was then MP of Al-Kalau when we were members of Parliament together, for bringing this law. At that time, we didn't have governors, and it made a difference.
Okay.
And also, every time we are vetting people in the counties or at the national level, should also pay homage to Honorable Mungatana, who brought that law. So, you know, we were there and we did something with our time.
Mungatana can also get accolades fighting a motion of censure against the Deputy President. And that's the latest. Thank you so much, Danson Mungatana, Tana River County Senator, Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo, and Pamela Odhiambo, former woman representative Migori County, who was joining us via phone for such a nice debate on all the issues we've been talking about. Of course, the biggest discussion is a looming impeachment or otherwise of the Deputy President. Yes, thank you so much for your time at TV47 and for your very well-considered opinions on those matters. After the break, we'll be having a group in studio to discuss online pressure in relationships. Yes, this is definitely for the younger Kenyans, so do stand by for that conversation. Shiksha Arora will be in studio for that. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.